What are the keys to a great night out? Great food and drinks, great prizes, and great friends. Join us Thursday, January 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Key STL Burger, Bar, and Boogie in the Grand Center Arts District. Enjoy a live broadcast with Cam Jansen and Jim Hayes, plus special guest Matt Adams. Dig into the best smash burgers in town and get your shot at winning opening day Cardinals tickets, autographed merch, and more. That's Thursday, January 22nd, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Key STL, 3225 Olive. Come eat, hang out, and win.
Took them long enough, right? At long last, the St. Louis Blues have a non-regulation win in this 2025-2026 season. Winless in shootouts prior to tonight, 0-8 in overtime games. And oh my goodness, shootout winner, Jordan Kyrou with the backhand against Andrei Vasilevskiy. And the Blues win this one 3-2 over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Thomas Welch, of all the games this year, gutsy. Very gutsy. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many things where we can talk about if you want to talk about the play of Joel Hofer, because my God, what a performance from a guy went in a season where Blues goaltending has kind of been, up and down to say the least, whether it's Binnington or Joel Hofer in net throughout the course of the season. But it felt like the, tide has kind of been shifting in Joel Hofer's favor for a while now. And tonight with a 944 save percentage, I believe, my God, gave you a chance, kept you in it when things looked dire, and came up big in the shootout for, like you said, the Blues' first shootout win of the season. My God. And Jimmy Snuggerud, like Nick Bugstad, just fantastic play from a couple of players that, we just, in a scenario where you're missing Robert Thomas, you're missing Pew Suter, and you're missing guys and looking for other guys to step into that role and that next man up mentality that the Blues so often find themselves looking for in. A couple guys stepped up tonight big for the St. Louis Blues, so I was very happy to see that as we go forward into the season and even further into what the next years of this team hold.
Yeah, I got my Vasilevskys and Bobrovskys mixed up. Andrei Vasilevskiy, my mistake. Testament to their mettle. The Blues do not give up an even strength goal in this game. And that first period, we saw a lot of mettle. They hung with them despite Tampa Bay's scoring chances. You've got Kucherov there on the top line. Tampa Bay, to their credit, were putting shots on net and had some really good chances. What made the difference early on for the Blues, and particularly that fourth line, being able to stop them in their tracks and actually get off to a 2-0 lead in this game?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was Joel Hofer, but really it's like the defense too, right? Because at the end of the day, the Lightning are putting up 36 shots on goal, so it's not really like the Blues were stifling them defensively, but I think they were kind of picking their spots on a defensive unit right now that has also been up and down throughout the course of the season and had their struggles, but at the end of the day, they know to protect the home and protect the area directly in front of Joel Hofer, and that's going to give him the best opportunity to make saves. And whether he's, looking around screens like we saw tonight, or, whether he's moving side to side and kind of premeditating those one-timers, it felt like Joel Hofer was seeing the ice with 20/20 vision tonight, and seeing plays that were manifesting themselves in front of him before they even happened. And when you've got a goalie that's doing that, manning the pipes, all of a sudden it becomes a little bit easier to play defense in front of him. It doesn't feel like you're swimming trying to make sure, every shot on goal is avoided at all, like humanly possible. Like if he's saving the perimeter shots, like you don't have to worry about him as much. If he's saving pucks on net even when they have that net front presence, which has been a problem for the Blues this season and really a reoccurring problem for the defense to get guys out of that crease. It felt like even when in areas when the defense was struggling in that zone tonight, Joel Hofer still came up big. And when you can neutralize a certain aspect of the game in that regard, it just makes it easier on everybody. And I think that's why we saw the result that we saw tonight.
We saw a positive result, and you too can see positive results with one of the main sponsors of our show tonight, and that is Home Bank Blue Central Postgame, brought to you by our business banking partners. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business ain't just about the numbers, it's about relationships. And with home bank, those relationships make all the difference. Locker rooms are all about relationships, dressing rooms, if you will. Home bank is the team behind our team. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Home bank, member FDIC. More than a bank, they're your business partner. As we continue on here with Blue Central postgame 3-2 the final over the Tampa Bay Lightning, Corey Land commenting here on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in, Corey. Says his team showed heart. Now they just need to do it every night. In St. Louis, you show heart and effort, and that's all that we ask for. Some notes on the home ice advantage that appears to be bubbling up here at the start of 2026. Last 7 games prior to tonight at home, about the span of a month, 1.57 goals against average. They're coming off a back-to-back home shootouts against Montreal and then Carolina. Jake Neighbors continues his point streak, now 3 games in a row that he's gotten a point. And they shut down the hottest team in hockey. The Tampa Bay Lightning are a betting favorite, to win the Eastern Conference. And in a conference with Florida and, all that, franchise record 11-game win streak coming into tonight. This is I'm finding
win of the season.
Yeah, it seems like this is something that had been eluding the Blues, just starting off the season on the wrong foot at home, and it just never really gaining any sort of sense of momentum. You've got a lot of leapfrogging to do, let's be honest, before you even become relevant and make some noise. But this just seemed like Joel Hofer even had saved his 56 shot attempts in a row coming into before the Lightning could score. It seems like they're finding a way to turn this home ice advantage into something really special.
Yeah, and that's something that we've heard has been a priority from Jim Montgomery too, right? Like even going back early on in this season. Now, like you said, Luke, the results weren't there, absolutely, and the results weren't there on most nights for the St. Louis Blues thus far. But that aspect of the game, when we know that Jim Montgomery has kind of honed in on that as being, part of the identity that he wants the St. Louis Blues team to play with is, showing up on home ice and defending your home ice and putting on a show for the fans there, the great fans of St. Louis, as they love to say. Like, that means something to me as a fan. That makes me want to go to games more, is when I think they're 5-1-1 in their last 7. So like you said, trending in the right direction. And as we get, closer and people start thinking about playoffs, because, obviously I think the talent gap that we are kind of witnessing, is far, right? But the statistical gap isn't far. So, these are 2 pretty impressive wins against the Canes and against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like you said, 11 wins in a row and one of the favorites to make some noise in the postseason. Like, things can move very slowly throughout the course of history in the NHL, as we've seen with the Buffalo Sabres, or things can move very quickly, which we saw with the St. Louis Blues last season. So statistically, they're not out of it just yet. For some reason, this team just loves to turn things around once it hits the month of January. But is that a trend in the right direction, or is this more inconsistencies from a team that's been up and down all season? They'll show us in the next couple of games here, but it does seem like they have a great grasp of the magnitude of these games. Obviously showing up from the jump, getting up 2 goals early on them. Obviously they claw their way back in on the power play, which, special teams continues to be an area where the Blues need to improve. So hopefully they work on that moving forward, but steps in the right direction. Absolutely, for sure, for this team tonight.
I want to get to special teams in a little bit. However, first, we're talking money moment of the game. Obviously, it is the shootout. The Blues, after playing keep away from the Lightning and very well for the first 3.5 minutes of overtime, they eke their way from a 3-on-3 into a best-of-3 shootout. Joel Hofer stopping all 3 against Gage Gonsalves, Gensel, and then Nikita Kucherov. And Jordan Kyrou doing the deke kind of cut and center ice, and then backhand on the blocker side to get it past Vasilevskiy. From your perspective, among the shootout attempts that the Blues had this year, and finally being able to get one in the back of the net, what was it about Kyrou's play that really stood out?
Felt to me like the confidence, right? I mean, the way that he skates in, kind of edges it a little bit, changes his angle, and then I think really just the trusting of his hands, because we've seen multiple times this season, even I think Braden Shen on a shootout attempt just like fumbled the puck completely, and it's like, what else can go wrong for this team? But a guy like Jordan Kyrou, who has that scoring touch that we know that is why he's making $8 million for this team. We know what he's capable when the puck is on his stick. And we know what he's capable of doing, with his hands and in terms of breaking down goaltenders. So I feel like for the St. Louis Blues, even dating back to Vladdy, really like the last, bona fide shootout stud that we had was TJ Oshie, which, you don't find those guys in terms of the shootout monsters every day. But Jake Neighbors starting it off. I didn't realize he's like 75% on the season. That's pretty solid. He's got that nice little nifty move they were talking about on the broadcast. Obviously didn't find the back of the net tonight, but I think that's a massive moment for Jordan Kyrou, especially since coming back from his injury. He's kind of been snake bit, hasn't found the back of the net throughout this whole season as much as he'd like, I'm sure. And from coming back from his injury, but that's got to be a nice moment for him, especially scoring on a goaltender of the caliber like Andrei Vasilevskiy. Like, that's not really like an accident. That's not like, oh, like Vasilevskiy just played it wrong. It's like, that's a high-end level breakdown of a shootout goal there that, and then to backhand it and roof it the way that he did. Like, I think that bodes well for everybody's confidence moving forward, but surely for Jordan Kyrou's.
Surely for Jordan Kyrou's confidence could be the start of something special, and you too can start something special because this money moment of the game brought to you by Home Bank. Yep, that's right. They're the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank. Call 855-577-2001. Oh my goodness, Missouri. We're talking betting, sports betting. Football season well over. One more college football game to go. And oh yeah, the Bears going to beat up on the ex-St. Louis Rams probably on Sunday, but more on that later. Same game parlays, money lines, props. Missouri fans know the deal for game day. You can bring the energy to betting. Bet $5, just get 300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. Read verbatim. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code STL Sports. New Missouri customers bet $5 and get 300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code STL Sports. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Oh,
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or call ccbg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, call dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Okay, Luke, I'm going to come at you with a truth bomb here of a question, all right? Because I see chat talking about it, and I feel like we're all kind of feeling, it hasn't been very often, albeit hand up, right, that we've been able to do post-game shows for the St. Louis Blues this season when they've won in a positive result, especially against Tampa Bay Lightning, a playoff team. Like, that's a positive for sure, obviously. And then I go on a tangent about playoff implications. People get mad in the chat. I get it, right? I get it, because the long-term, spectrum of things, it's like, yeah, this team's, still consistently throughout this season has shown us that it's inconsistencies, it's flaws. Like, if it regresses to the means, it's going to go downhill again. But in your perspective, it feels like it's almost difficult to watch games right now because on one mind, you're like, if we lose and like start tanking, you give yourself the best chance at, like drafting someone in the top 3, top 5, top 10, whatever it is. Maybe that's better for the rebuild. Maybe that's better for the retool. And, trying to get one of these guys like Kucherov, that's a certified playmaker, elite level talent, certified sniper, whatever he is, right? Or are you like Doug Armstrong and or like me in this moment right now, chasing the highs of, oh, we won. Like, this team looks capable against a Tampa Bay Lightning team that's been on fire, against a Tampa Bay Lightning team that's, one of the favorites to make some noise in the playoffs. Like, maybe they are capable of doing more than we thought they were. And maybe this is the turning point of the season and, holding out hope that this is just a a late run for the St. Louis Blues and they're going to squeak into the playoffs and actually win their first round in the playoffs, which has been our expectations for the season the whole time. So like, I'm saying it's like a Jekyll and Hyde scenario right now where I feel like 1 second I'm leaning one way, the next second I'm leaning the other. I'm wondering where you're at in this moment right now and where you're at on that topic for the long term of how we move towards the end of the season.
It's funny you bring that up on a game or on a night where the Blues play the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I do want to mark one comment here in a second. That is interesting because this is not a one-to-one comparison at all. You go back to March 23rd, 2019, and I'm sitting at Enterprise Center. I think the Blues are trailing 1-0, 2-0 to the Lightning. And this is when the Blues are sitting near the bottom of the Western Conference, if not in last place, because they had dug a hole for themselves in January and February. And they rattle off 3 goals in 75 seconds. I have never heard the Enterprise Center louder. Not when it was Scott Trade, not when it was Savis, not when it was the dadgum Keel Center. Felt like the roof was going to come off the place. And that kind of fell. I looked at my dad being like, we are back. Remember, Mike Meyer wrote about that in his Father's Day article this summer. But to your point, when was the last time that the Blues had an opportunity to get generational talent? Pick among, those top 4 or 5 lottery picks in the draft. Eric Johnson, maybe? Hard to say. So it's a very difficult scenario to get entangled with. And then I don't know if this is in reference to you or if it's reference to me. I don't want to make this show about myself. We have a running joke on Cards 365, me and Ethan Hanford, that Chaim Bloom watches the show because he's done pretty much everything that we predicted. I don't know if you watched the Sunday edition of The Weekend, but I said multiple times that offseason demanded bold, decisive action. And in St. Louis, with hockey, never really needed it. Growing up in the 90s, Blues were competitive, always. It was 20-something seasons in a row that they made the playoffs. It wasn't incredibly hard to do in the NHL. No, this is not the start of something. This is not the start of a generational run for the Blues, and I don't know if they're going to win 11 games in a row, as did the Tampa Bay Lightning. They got to leapfrog too many teams. I'm not deciding one way or another, but this is certainly, you needed points. And again, like you look at the 8 other games where they made it past regulation this season and they couldn't get another point. Put that in half and see where they are. Kind of knocking on the door of that last wildcard spot. I know that doesn't answer your question, but it did fill up some time on this broadcast, right?
Yeah, I appreciate it too. But I think the resounding answer to that question is like the jury's still out, right? Because we've kind of hit. I mean, you've taken this game into consideration. Like we've kind of hit the highs and the lows of the season. It's like you can get blown out in the home opener and be like, "Wow, this team is way worse than we thought they were going to be." And then tonight, it's like, okay, maybe are we back? Are we back? Are we all the way back? Are we just like kind of back? So like, I think the jury's still out on which one of those will come true. But that's why you ride the roller coaster, right? That's why you come into these post-game shows with me, with Luke, with Mike, with Jacob, with anybody, right? And keep coming in and keep showing up. And it doesn't matter how much you get tortured watching the game because you're going to keep showing up and you're like, what are they going to say tonight? What am I going to say tonight? How is my opinion going to change from game to game? That's why we love sports. And I'm so excited to continue this roller coaster with you, Luke, and with chat because, my God, it's exhausting, but it's awesome.
Let's just give this a couple more minutes because we should talk about special teams. The Blues are up 2-0 after the first period. And then it's that middle third where they get shaken up. They lose some momentum. Toropchenko with a tripping penalty. And then I think the real backbreaker was Nathan Walker. You have 12 left in that original penalty kill. And rather than just chip it in to the offensive zone, he gets a dumb tripping penalty. And that leads to a 5-on-3, which leads to a goal, which leads to a 5-on-4, which leads to a goal. Tampa Bay special teams are not anything special. They're mid, actually, right? Dead center, 16th in the league in power play percentage. It just seemed like this was avoidable. It could have been a different outlook for this game because 5-on-5, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was really just so unfortunate for Nathan Walker, because it's really like his stick got tangled there. And you could tell too, like he put his hands up, dropped his stick. I mean, he did everything he could to like be like, hey, I'm not doing anything. But the ref had already called it. And it's like, when the stick ends up in that position, it's like you kind of have to as a referee. It's just more bad luck than anything, which I'm sure chat's going to love, is us talking about the Blues being unlucky once again. But my point is, previously in this season, when Blues get unlucky or the puck doesn't bounce their way and all these things that we talk about, like, and then the other team scores in the back of their net, it's like score once, score twice, 3 times. All of a sudden it's 5 unanswered and you're like, okay, the game's out of hand. Like, was that the turning point of the game? Was like Blues get unlucky, hang their head, get frustrated, and then they start, thinking about the referees or thinking about, other things and not the team at hand that's trying to come back on them, and they end up on the wrong side of the result, right? For me, it felt like a turning curve for the St. Louis Blues, and tonight was overcoming that adversity and being like, okay, unlucky penalty on Nathan Walker, and all of a sudden this game is tied, right? It's 0-0. We still have this. We've been hanging with the Tampa Bay Lightning neck and neck throughout this entire game. Like, there's no reason we should think like this game's over because the momentum has swung in their direction. It was just 2 power play goals, which happens, especially when Nikita Kucherov is on the other team. Like, it's kind of a stud. But like you said, 5-on-5, you're hanging with them. So if you just stay out of the box, like for the rest of the game, you give yourself a good chance to come away with a victory. And that's what happened. I think that's a big moment for the Blues. And, not necessarily saying like they're never out of a game, but it's like you can get a 2-goal lead, blow the 2-goal lead, and like still come away victorious, because the fate of the cards of how the game is dealt out is directly in your hands. Like, you directly, the players on the ice, have the ability to manipulate that momentum and swing it in their direction whenever they want to, with however hard that they work. And I think that's a big kind of, philosophical moment for this team. I mean, my God, I mentioned it a little bit already, but the play that I saw tonight from Jimmy Snuggerud was unbelievable. I mean, you talk about a guy that's like, Robert Thomas is out. Someone has to step up into that role of like being one of the top players on this team, and I'm going to do it. Like, that guy was just skating with so much emotion, so much passion, and just, I mean, we knew when he got drafted that he had an absolute bomb of a shot. It felt like he just like doubled it tonight. Like, or if he got some kind of power up, I don't know what it was, but like, I think one of them hit Vasilevskiy in the mask, and I thought he almost fell over. I'm like, what is happening? He's throwing missiles at these guys, but it's like he has as many shots on the night as Jordan Kyrou. I think they both led the team with 4, but that's exactly what you want to see from those guys. And I think that's something with Jimmy Snuggerud where, maybe it was the injury kind of rearing its head when he was playing through it, or, maybe it's just him being a rookie and like, should I be shooting this often or should I be passing it off? Like, no, dude, if you've got a shot like that, you're a bona fide sniper. Just let it rip as much as humanly possible when you're open. I thought tonight was the best that I've seen from him in his short career in that regard. And it feels like Jim Montgomery felt that way too, because he was second on all forwards on the St. Louis Blues in time on ice, only to Braden Shen, who's your captain, and he only had 1 second less than him, and he's a rookie. It's awesome.
Just a rookie. The Blues carry on. They open up a 3-game road trip Sunday at Edmonton, 7:00 puck drop. Last time out in November at the Enterprise Center, the Blues beat them 3-2, 3 unanswered goals to win that game. However, 2 centermen, Robert Thomas and Pius Suter, will not be available for this one. Dalibor Dvorsky with the other goal. This is a game where Connor McDavid got his 1,000th point. Final thoughts as the Blues wrap up this win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. First shootout win of the year.
Yeah, I think it's just something massive to build off of. And like you said, you've got a pretty solid team coming up in the Edmonton Oilers too. So I know Joey Vitale talked about it on the broadcast. Like, this is a really good litmus test of like, if the Blues were ever going to turn it around and convince the fans, but really more so convince themselves that they still have a chance at making the playoffs this season, whether that's real or whether that's fake, the rest of the season will show us outright. But in this microcosm of where they're at in the time frame of this season, this stretch of games is absolutely a great litmus test to show them like where are we at in our development and our evolution of this team in regards to the teams that we're expecting to make a ton of noise in the playoffs. So Oilers fall right into that category. And they've kind of been, they've been the Oilers that we know and red hot, absolutely on fire at times this season. And they've also looked like they're able to get exposed a little bit earlier on in this season. So kind of unsure which version we'll see. But Connor McDavid's been on fire. So if he's got anything to say about it, he's going to drag that team to victory. But the Blues have been hot too. So I feel like with any Blues game right now, it's kind of a coin flip of, are you going to see the best team in the league or, one of the worst? So in that regard, ride the roller coaster and we'll see what happens.
Let's ride. He's Thomas Welch. I'm Luke Slayball. This has been Blues Central Postgame here. Final score, St. Louis 3 and Tampa Bay 2 in shootout fashion. This has been STL Central, Sports Central rather, brought to you by DraftKings. Crown is yours. Have a good night, everyone.